Pro Football Focus is something I rely on. They are unemotional and analytic. It's not a bunch of commentary nonsense. I don't believe in opinion from anybody. But Pro Football Focus has a couple of numbers that are frightening. Last year, Prescott, with a great running back, good receivers, amazing offensive line, and an offensive-minded coach, threw for 3,800 yards and 22 TDs. Those ranked 15th and 16th, respectively, among quarterbacks. That's with a lot of help offensively. Here's the other one. In the most predictive aspect of quarterback play, meaning this will tell you what your quarterback is. Pro Football Focus says the ability to avoid throws graded negatively by Pro Football Focus. He was 25th among qualifying quarterbacks a season ago. And meaning he's got a lot of negative throws. He leaves a lot on the table. But Dak is the ultimate NFL dilemma. He's good enough at quarterback. He's good enough to win a division. He's done it twice. He's good enough to go 32-16. He's good enough to win the locker room. He's always available. He never gets hurt. He's good enough to unseat Tony Romo. And that's a dangerous place to be. Now, Kansas City had a quarterback good enough, Alex Smith. Good enough to win a playoff game. Good enough to win the division. Good enough to win games. Good enough to get everybody a contract extension on the coaching staff. Nobody gets fired with Alex Smith. And then they rolled the dice, and they went to Patrick Mahomes, and that's good. And so, by the way, the Raptors were good enough with Dwayne Casey and DeMar DeRozan. They were good enough. They were a number one seed. And then they fired the coach, and they got rid of the player, and they won a title. And the Warriors won 73 games without KD. They were good enough, and they went and got KD and became a dynasty. It's a really – there's also an ethical thing. And this is you wouldn't think billionaires care about this, but there is a little ethical thing with Dak. When somebody comes to your business and you feel like – Dak Prescott increased the value of the Cowboys, and this is a reasonable thing – $200 million. When Tony Romo got hurt and they went into the tank, people started taking the Cowboys off television. They started taking the Cowboy. Listen, the Lakers for the last 4 years, until LeBron showed up, were off television. Like, networks didn't fight for the Lakers until last year with LeBron. So LeBron brings more than just excitement. LeBron gets you on television. You sell more jerseys. You sell more tickets. Dak Prescott, there's an ethical thing here. Does Jerry Jones feel like, okay, I got him in the fourth round. He saved our franchise $200 million. He kept us on television. I can see if I owned a team, I'd be like, I'm going to pay him more than the market suggests. Cross my fingers, the salary cap goes up. Now, that's why I'm not a billionaire. Because ethically, I would feel somehow I owe him a little bit. Like things are too good for us. He saved the franchise. There's sort of a saved the business fee that's unspoken and not negotiated that I would feel I owe him. See, I'm not even looking at it from that perspective. While that's fair, I think there's things that you can help him with off the field. You know, those are the endorsements that you get him and, right. and the business ventures and introducing him to people for the future. I just don't. Are you planning on drafting another Patrick Mahomes? You feel like that's what you're capable of doing? I like my scouting department. They're very talented.
I mean, you must love them.
Almost as much as Gwen Stefani. Top 10 NFL teams of the decade. Some writer for the NFL.com. I hate the list. First of all, of his 10, only 3 won the Super Bowl. How can you be a best team? Couldn't he win the Super Bowl? And he's got a bunch of qualifiers. Like no franchise can be used more than once. Why? Why can't I do it? Well, entertainment value considered. What is this, a circus? It's a football team. I don't care about that stuff. What do you mean you can only use every team once? That's like saying, you know what? Top 10 movie studio list. But 1 per city. Well, like 8 are in Los Angeles. Your list doesn't make any sense if you have a qualifier. 10 best beaches in America. Well, 6 are in Florida, 3 are in California. If you have 4, if you have to have 1 in every state. Best cheese. Wisconsin's going to have most of it. I don't like qualifiers to my list. Best places to retire. Okay, then don't say with this income. Best places to retire. Just give me the list. I don't need the cheapest town or the richest town. So my point is this list puts a bunch of qualifiers in. It makes no sense. But I will say this. They got one thing right. They have the Seattle Seahawks number 1. Because I honestly believe, I've been watching the NFL since the early 70s, 1972. And that's like over 50 years. There have been 5 great teams for one season. The 5 best teams I've ever seen, Seattle is one of them. And all of them were for a season. although most won a Super Bowl or two. The first great team I ever saw was the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1976. I just started watching football. They had 3 shutouts in a row. Even back then, you didn't do that. They had 7 Pro Bowlers on defense. They overwhelmed teams. Terry Bradshaw was a star, big, strong. Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, best offensive line, best defensive line, arguably best quarterback, arguably best coach. They just looked different than everybody else, the 76 Steelers. They shut out opponents 5 times in an 8-game stretch. That would be unbelievable if Alabama did that. The second team I saw that I thought was just absurd was the 1985 Chicago Bears. That's the one with Ditka and Jim McMahon. They looked different. They looked like Mike Tyson early in his career. People were afraid of them. They won 15 games by double digits, including the playoffs. That Chicago Bear team they were absurd. They allowed 10 points in 3 playoff games. They shut out the Giants and the Rams. And gave up 10 to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That was the second unbelievable team I ever saw. The third team was the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, and they're as good as any of them. First of all, they held the number 1 scoring offense in NFL history to 8 points in the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning. Literally overwhelmed Peyton Manning. They won 7 games in the NFL, the parity league, by 20 points, including 35-point win in the Super Bowl. They only allowed 1 team 400 yards all year. And by the way, this is a league now which all the rules go offense. All of them go offense. You couldn't move the ball on the Seahawks. They were the hardest team to get 3 straight first down on in a row in succession, probably in the last 25 years, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. Then another team I want to throw out there is the 1992 Dallas Cowboys. That was the Troy Aikman Cowboys, arguably the best defensive line, the best offensive line. Emmitt Smith was a running back. Michael Irvin, you had the best coach, arguably, in Jimmy Johnson. The only way I can sum it up is 16 games, 12 by double digits. And that was a time the NFC had all sorts of good teams. They had deep threats. They had a tight end. They had a running game. They had power. They had finesse. Aikman was accurate, threw over the top. They had a great staff. They had pass rushers. It was hard to run against them. They had hitters. They had pure corner covers. They had good special teams. Won the Super Bowl by 35 points over the Bills. And one of the last teams is the 2007 Patriots. That was the first and only team that's ever gone 16-0 in the regular season. Outscored opponents. Doesn't even make sense. They outscored opponents by 315 points. Again, Alabama doesn't do that. They crushed everybody except the Eagles and the Ravens in the regular season, and they lost in the Super Bowl. But to me, the 5 best teams I've ever seen in terms of chronological order: 76 Steelers, 85 Bears, 92 Cowboys, 2007 Patriots, 2013 Seahawks. By the way, I don't have any 49ers in here. Those teams were great, but I never felt they had the greatest team. Now, I did think they're arguably the greatest dynasty after the Patriots. But the teams I'm mentioning here all have one thing in common. They literally felt like they intimidated other professional athletes. Like Mike Tyson intimidated other big boxers. Like, that's when you're dominant. When you look like, you're playing with an extra man. Seattle looked like they were playing with an extra man defensively. You could not get back-to-back first downs on them. They were faster than everybody. In fact, Bill Belichick faced them the following year in the playoffs, and Belichick's theory on beating them was, when you catch the ball against the Seahawks, just go down. Don't try to get extra yards, because they'll hit you and strip the ball. He was literally, catch it and just go to the turf. That's when you're good. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.